All right, good evening. I am State Senator Melanie Griffith, representing Legislative District 25 in Central and Southern Prince George's County. And I also have the honor of chairing the Health and Human Services Subcommittee of the Budget and Tax Committee in the Maryland State Senate. And I am really delighted to just engage with our presenters this evening for the October 2022 installation of Let's Talk. And just to share with those of you who may be joining us for the first time, we actually celebrated 1 year of hosting our Let's Talk virtual information series in September. And so our last month's Let's Talk was actually Let's Talk about loan repayment. And we partnered with the state of Maryland women legislators on that program. But over the past year, we've had conversations about let's talk about wills and funeral planning. We talked about cyber scams and schemes. We did a let's talk about jobs and careers. Let's talk about healthy eating on a budget. Wave Sherma, that was our own nutritionist, Sherma Brousseau, led that one. We actually did let's talk about Black history that the office, my team in the office put together. And we also had a let's talk about summer activities as we were heading into the summer months. And so tonight, we're really excited to have our Let's Talk about resources. And we're going to get some valuable information from dynamic speakers this evening. But first, I want to take a moment and ask my team if they would introduce themselves. Let's Talk is something that we came up with, as I said, about a year ago as a way to get valuable information to the citizens of Prince George's County and the state of Maryland without they're having to leave their homes and find babysitters and parking spaces. And so we're really excited that the team has been able to consistently bring information to the community. I'll ask my team to start with the Chief of Staff. Introduce yourself so everybody can know who you're going to call or who you're going to hear from to follow up with.
All right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Letitia Beal, Senator Griffith's Chief of Staff. Happy to put faces with names. So I'm excited about this information session because I think it's going to be an abundance of information that we can share with, we have ourselves and share with our constituency. So thank you all for joining.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Karen White and I work as a special assistant in Senator Griffith's office. And yeah, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Najee Bailey. I'm Senator Griffith's legislative aide. And just glad to celebrate a year doing this, putting out great information with you all.
Excellent.
Hello, my name is Sherma Brousseau, and I was the first one to get started on the Let's Talk Healthy Eating. So everybody breakfast today and had a lunch meal. Community layers all Senator.
Thank you. Thank you all. And so as we get started with the program, just want to mention to our guests, if you do have questions for our presenters, we're going to break the presentation into 3 segments. And so if you have a question for the presenter that is on at the time, feel free to put that in the chat room. And I think Najee is going to manage that to make sure that we get your question asked. And then if you prefer to ask your question yourself, then at the conclusion of the presentations, we'll provide an opportunity for you to use your raise hand feature, and you'll be able to ask the presenter questions directly. So this program is being recorded. And for those of you, and I think everyone tonight that is a part of this meeting, registered for this meeting, you all will receive summary notes in the coming week or so from this meeting, as well as the Zoom link for this recording. So you'll be able to share it with friends and neighbors and members of your organizations. And we encourage you to do that. And you can go back to our YouTube channel and look for some of the other programming that we have offered in the past year. So with that, if there are no questions, I will begin by introducing our first presenter. And let me just say that this evening we're going to talk about 3 resources that are available in the state of Maryland in general and to Prince George's County for one specifically. We're going to talk about 211, 311, and 988. And so we're going to start tonight's presentation with a dynamic speaker on 211 who's going to talk to us. And that presenter is Jameson Brill, who is a licensed social worker and the call center director of Community Crisis Services, Inc. He oversees the crisis hotline and crisis chat programs. He's worked at crisis intervention and suicide prevention hotlines since 2013 and received a Master of Social Work degree. Yay, that's what I have to. Received a Master of Social Work degree from the University of Maryland in Baltimore in 2020. Some of his passions within his work, including empowering LGBTQ plus youth, as well as adults in recovery from substance use disorders. So let me turn the Zoom room over to Mr. Brill. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for having me tonight. I'm Jamie. I'm the call center director of Community Crisis Services. So our crisis center does a lot. I'm going to focus on our 211 services tonight and talk a little bit about it. There is some significant overlap with 988. So I will leave a majority of speaking about 988 to Mr. Rabbit, but I might mention a little bit about it. So I'll share my screen with everyone and we'll take a look at my presentation here. We'll walk through this together. So what is 211? 211 is an information and referral service. Most states have their own 211 system. Puerto Rico also has its 211 system, and there's actually a 211 system as well serving Canada. What and how does 211 work? So you just dial 211 on your phone, and based on your location, you will get directed to the 211 center closest to you. So now when you contact a 211 center, you can be connected with a variety of different resources. So essentially you would call and advise on what you need, be that rent assistance, connection with food pantries, or affordable mental health care options. We have several thousand resources in our database. So our particular center serves Southern Maryland. So, and there are several other 211 Maryland call centers in other parts of Maryland. So we have one for the Eastern Shore, we have one for Central Maryland, and then we have one for Western Maryland. So now, also, there are some folks who use 211 for emotional support. There are many folks out there who just need someone to talk to, just need a supportive listening ear. Sometimes people call us when they are having thoughts of suicide as well. And we work with them to process what's brought them to the point that they're thinking about suicide and help identify means of staying safe, and then try to plan for safety in collaboration with that caller. So, like I said, we serve Southern Maryland, but calls come into our particular center from all over the state, and sometimes from other states too. So what happens when you call? When you reach out, the first thing we will do, we'll clarify with you what kind of resources you might be looking for, or what has you reaching out. So we'll identify, like, are you looking for a specific kind of resource? Are you looking for someone to talk to? Are you in a significant crisis and need intervention support through that? So if you're looking for resources, one of the first things we will ask you is for your zip code in order for us to search for resources in your immediate area. Now, we know that sometimes people reach out and they're not sure what zip code they're in. Maybe they recently moved. Maybe they've moved a lot in recent years. And like after so many moves, that just becomes harder to remember. So we can also use the city you live in if needed. Now, there are some more densely populated areas that have different zip codes in short, like in a small range, like across like a smaller area. So there are certain areas that you live in where knowing your zip code will be really helpful for us to find the resources closest to you. So we'll use our database to find resources in your area that may meet your needs. Our resource database is carefully vetted. We actually have someone whose full-time job it is to research resources in our area, contact them, learn more about them, ascertain what they can't do, what they can and cannot do. And we put that information into the database so that we can relay that information to consumers who reach out to us. So we can also text or email information about resources to you as well if needed. I do encourage most people calling, if you have a paper and something to write with handy, bring that with you to the call so you can write down some information. But just in case you're in a space where you can't do that, we can also text information or email information to you as well. So now, when is 211 open? We are open anytime. One of my big jobs one of my big roles is to ensure 24/7 coverage of all of our crisis intervention, suicide prevention, and information referral services. We have a dedicated team of overnight workers. We have a dedicated team of day shift workers. We have a dedicated team of evening shift workers. People work weekends. We work holidays. We are always open. So I know I've gotten calls in the middle of the night from someone seeking help with their power bill. And, they're just like, I know I won't be able to make this phone call during the day. I got to get up and go to work, but I really got to hash this out. So I'm kind of calling it a weird time. That's not a problem at all. So now some resources we connect you with might not be open 24/7, but we will be able to provide you this information at any time. Also, you can seek emotional support from this line at any time as well. So our particular center is also a 988 center. A lot of 211 centers are also 988 centers nowadays. So, and even if a 211 center is not a 988 center, I know for us, we provide suicide prevention and crisis intervention training to other 211 centers in our area in case they don't provide 988 services, so that they can still be equipped to provide emotional support to callers if they need through their crises. So that's all that I have to say about that. Happy to take any and all questions that folks might have about this.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Najee. I know he may have received some questions directly in the chat since we invited people to communicate that way. But I have one question and thank you for that presentation. I was trying to write notes, and hopefully we can get a copy of your presentation, because I wasn't even aware that it was open 24/7. So thank you so much for that. Are there instances where people can call for a family member or a friend, or do you need to hear from that individual directly?
So we take a lot of phone calls from people who are calling and they're like, I have a friend or a family member who really needs some help. They are a little too prideful to reach out on their own. I'm just trying to get some information for them. We hear about that regularly. So we're happy to talk with people who are just like trying to get some information on behalf of a loved one. However, in order for most of those resources, it probably will need to be that person needing the service reaching out to the resources directly in order to access them. However, that initial information we can very much give to that loved one. One particular situation that comes up for us with some regularity is when a loved one is concerned about, a friend or a family member who is going through a substance use disorder. And, it's like, I really want to try to find some like inpatient facilities for my loved one. And so one thing we encourage is like, we'll give you as much information as we have about facilities in the area, and you can go back to your friend or family member and relay this information to them. It will ultimately have to be them that makes the choice to access the service. but we can give you as much information as we can so that you can have an informed conversation with your loved one about what is available out there.
Thank you so much. I'm going to check in with Najee Bailey, who's been monitoring questions that have come into the office or through the chat. Najee?
We have a couple, and please remember you can put it into the chat or you can send them directly to me. A question we have here is, what types of rental assistance resources are available?
Sure, absolutely. So they have become more scarce as the pandemic has gone on, in Prince George's County in particular. There are a couple of nonprofits out there that offer some rent assistance. The main option that we refer people to at present is the Emergency Assistance to Families with Children program run by the Department of Social Services. So, but there are a couple of other nonprofit options available as well. Rent assistance is tricky in Prince George's County. We did have an emergency rental assistance program that ran through portions of the pandemic, but the eligibility for that filled up pretty quickly. And it's not something that's currently available. So it's hard, but it's not impossible to access rent assistance here in Prince George's County.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate that answer. Another question we have here is, if someone calls from their office, would they get directed to their local call center?
Yes. So there's some geolocation stuff that happens with your phone, and figure out what, like, you're directed based on your location.
Okay. And another one here is, and this one might just be simple, but what is the number to MD? It's to Maryland 211.
You can just dial 211 on your phone from within our service area. So from within Prince George's County, Montgomery County, from Charles and Cecil and St. Mary's County, or the alternative number, I'll just drop it in the chat. Alternative 3, a 10-digit number is 301-864-7161. You can tell I've referred at least a couple of people to it, because I know it off the top of my head. So that is also just in case, like, we have heard from some folks that they've had some issues getting through when they dial just 211, but if you dial that 10-digit number, that goes directly to our particular center.
Very good. Thank you. And one more question before we turn it over is there a standard level of consistency for 211 centers?
Yes, so we have regular meetings with one another. Our staff are in pretty frequent contact to make sure that we are providing consistent service across the state. Like, we have a pretty strong United State network of Maryland 211 centers. And it's my understanding that it's the same kind of system in other states too. The state 211 centers work together, and to make sure that we're on the same page with how we're providing services, that, like, we're also sharing, oftentimes sharing database information with each other, so that and we keep a couple of different pieces of information about resources handy that might not be accessed through our particular center, but could be accessed through another 211 center in Maryland.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That is tremendously helpful. And I have to tell you, I am so glad that we have this program. As you know, delegates Karen Tolles, Nick Charles, and Daryl Barnes and I work together, our offices, on addressing constituent concerns. And often we get communication from members of our legislative district, sometimes people outside of our legislative district, requesting services. So would it be a preference for you that we have our constituents, and I'm asking this for Letitia Beal, would it be a preferred that we call on behalf of the constituent as a first step, or direct them to you all to call directly?
That's a really great question. I do always think, if possible, for the person in need to reach out directly, to reach out. that might be the easiest way to just get information across, but we know that's not always possible. So if that's not possible, that is perfectly fine if someone else is calling and advocating on their behalf.
Very good. Very good. All right. Any other burning questions at this time for Mr. Brill?
Yes, so just piggybacking off what you just said, Senator Griffith, is there an email, like a communication? Because sometimes we get constituent concerns via email. And with our other partners, we're able to just forward that information directly to them and start a line of communication.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yes, you can forward that directly to me, and what I would do, I get that over to our resource specialist, and our resource specialist would contact the constituent with information about resources.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's give Zoom room applause to Mr. Brill for that valuable information. Thank you so much. And hopefully you can hang out a little bit in case there are some additional questions. Thank you so much. I learned a lot. I hope everyone else did as well. We're going to move to our second presenter, and I had two presenters listed for this presentation, but I see Ms. Hawkins, so I'm going to start with you. And if Ms. Davis comes, we'll certainly, you all let me know so I can acknowledge her presence. But our second presentation.
Senator Griffith, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Director Davis is on, so you
Oh.
can present her.
Is
Yeah,
that the phone number, maybe?
I believe so.
I don't see her. Okay, very good. Thank you for letting me know, because I certainly didn't want to miss her. All right, folks. Well, we're very fortunate on this next presentation to have two dynamic and knowledgeable presenters from right here in Prince George's County that are going to share with us about Prince George's 311. We will hear from Ms. Unisha Davis, who is the Director of the Office of Community Relations for Prince George's County. And prior to joining the Also Brooks administration, Ms. Davis worked in the nonprofit industry for more than 12 years. She was the Senior Director of Community Impact for United Way of the National Capital Area, where she created a child wellness program entitled Fun, Fly, and Fit for more than 25,000 youth and parents in the DC metropolitan area. She served on the board of the YMCA Young Women's Leadership Council. She was awarded the 2012 Idealist of the Year Award by AmeriCorps, and she's a member of the Prince George's County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She is steadfast in her commitment to serving others. So give her a Zoom room round of applause as we bring her forward, along with her colleague, the program manager for 311, Miss Jennifer Hawkins, who is the program manager for 311 on the go for Prince George's County. And this is a unit in the Office of Community Relations. Jennifer and her team work diligently to increase county government's visibility in the county by bringing the program 311 on the go team to answer citizens' questions and submit service requests on their behalf right there on the spot. The 311 on the go team will help sister agencies bring resolution to citizens' concerns. And so without further ado, and we are going to share their bios and information with the summary and link that goes out from this meeting, please bring forward Miss Unisha Davis and Jennifer Hawkins with Prince George's 311. Ladies, the Zoom room is yours.
Right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Senator Griffith, delegates Barnes, Charles, and Tolles for inviting us this evening to share with you about Pgc311, the exciting happenings with the new Pgc311 system, a system that we encourage all residents in the county to use so they are better able to connect and access government. Jennifer Hawkins, our 311 on the go manager, which is our community response to issues or concerns that residents have regarding non-emergency quality of life issues. She will now begin the presentation, and I will be here for the duration. So during question and answer, if Jennifer can't answer it, I'll be able to. Thank you again. Jennifer, on you.
Thank you, Director Davis, and thank you, Senator Griffin, for the invitation to share really exciting news about our PGC 311 system. Again, my name is Jennifer Hawkins, Program Manager for the 311 On the Go program. I will share information about the PGC 311 call center. The PGC 311 call center is a one-stop shop call center where citizens can contact the call center and receive assistance from a customer service representative, as long as it's not an emergency. All emergencies are still directed to our 911 call center. Within the call center, we currently have 17 call center representatives, including 2 bilingual call center representatives. So whatever language someone speaks that reaches our call center, we are able to assist them. We have 2 bilingual call takers that speak Spanish. We have a growing Hispanic population within Prince George's County. However, if someone calls with a different and speaks a different language, we do use a translation service. So we are able to communicate with anyone that is in need of information or services from our county government agencies. So the call center, currently we're averaging about 900 to 1,000 calls a day, which
From the slide she just left off, our call center, we have a call center, and now we have the mobile app application, which we did not have before. We launched our new PGC 311 app back in February. So from February through now, we have received about 35,000 requests via the mobile app, which really is amazing because it provides our residents with better options. We are now averaging about 900 to 1,000 calls per day as a result of the mobile application. We currently average answering the phone in 15 seconds, which is above industry standard, private industry standard. So in many cases, doing a lot better than them. We have a 1% abandonment rate, which means if someone calls into the call center, we are answering calls at less than answering some of the calls less, or abandoning some of the calls less than 1%, which means that someone may call and it rings for 2 seconds and they hang up. So which is really good. Prior to the also Brooks administration coming in, that abandonment rate was at 17%. And so we have worked diligently to improve our response time for our residents. The most calls we've handled, I guess it's just a fun fact, is about 5,000 calls in one day. And we do this again with 17 operators. You would think our center is about 50, but only 17 operators. And again, we are responding to the residents' concerns. Next slide. PGC 311 is a new collaborative system designed with the resident in mind. So it is utilized by county residents, businesses, visitors, PGC 311 call center operators, our county government agencies. And so having a system that works, that allows agencies to work alongside of each other, allows us to do our job better for our residents. Next slide. So our PGC 311 mobile app and web portal. Again, the new mobile application and web portal, it was launched in February of 2022, and it allows our residents to have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week access to county government. And this access allows you to connect with your government at any time. So for example, if you see a pothole, say it's 2 a.m, you're driving home from somewhere and you see a pothole, you're able to enter that into the system using our new features as take a picture that will allow you to take a photo, put it, drop it in, and it will pin wherever you are, your location. You don't even have to have the address now, which is really awesome. Our call center It's still available to those who need to call Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday. So you can always call. You can do that by dialing 311 or 301-883-4748. That allows you, if you are a Prince George's County resident, but you work in DC, those towers are going to ping in DC. But if you have that, the 301 number, you're able to then access our Pgc311 app. Our customer application, this is now what our face looks like on the using the mobile device. And so you may request, or share a concern via the request. You may look at your recents, and then you have a history of my request when you establish an account with the Pgc311 system. And then we also have, which I really, really love, are our knowledge articles. Many times residents may send in a request and it does not belong to the county. So then you think we did not respond to it. So for example, on state maintained highways, which are the numbered roads, like your Route 4, if there is a concern there and you sent in how it used to be, if you sent it in, it will go into our system, but we didn't actually handle it. Now, when you use the mobile app, if you try to put in a request that Prince George's County does not handle, we will not take it. However, we will drop you a note to let you know who to go to get that concern addressed. And so if it's on a numbered street, you will get a pop-up that says, this is a state maintained road, please call this number, which I think is amazing because it allows us to educate our residents at the same time. And then now you don't put in a request and it goes dead. It like drops in this black hole anymore because you weren't able to do it. So the education of our residents is very, very important. Next slide. And also here, you may download the application, whether you have an Android or an iPhone, just go, and it's all free. Just go to your app store, download Pgc311, and you have government at your fingertips. Again, you can submit a request for service. You can, your service request submitted countywide. You can register your account, which we encourage you to do, because all of your service requests, whether you put one in or if you put 20 in, will all be in one queue for you to look at. And also, you may put one in 2022 and say when we get to 2026, the history of all of your concerns will be in one location. Next slide. Pgc311 features are frequently asked questions, which is also good because you're not the only one who sometimes doesn't know. And so we build our frequently asked questions as they come up. Our service descriptions are available for anyone that uses our system. We have alerts, fine services, service recommendations. You may now send a photo in with your concern. We say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. It truly is. And so this allows our agency reps to look at the concern before even going to your location, hopefully to bring the right equipment, or if it does not belong to that agency, it is then passed to the agency that will handle it. We're able to track service requests and also provide feedback on services. We have a feature where when you call in now, or if you use the mobile app, you're now able to fill out a survey, which is very important because what we want to do is continuously improve our services. Again, we didn't have those features before, but now we do. So you're able to now share your experiences using Pgc311. Next slide.
So you covered most of this, Ms. Davis.
Absolutely.
Pretty much.
Perfect. So again, you may drop a photo, which we really, really like. And also one thing to add, which many residents wanted before was the alerts. So when you submit a service request, you now get an email from us to say that we have your service request, your confirmation number is in there, and it also tells you when you can expect your service to be completed. Again, we didn't have that before. This now improves transparency and adds accountability of government. Before, you didn't know when it was going to be completed, but now you do. And so say a service request takes about, say, 50 days. You'll get an email alert from us the day that you put it in. The countdown begins that day that you put it in. And then you'll get another email from us as it gets closer to say, your service request will be completed in this many days. And then also once it's completed, you'll get another response from us to let you know that your service request has been completed. I think that the continuous communication with residents is needed. And it just makes you feel at ease that someone on the other side in government is listening to and acknowledging and addressing your concern. Jennifer, anything else you would like to add before we close?
Before we close, I'll just share just a brief blurb about the 311 on the Go program. This is an initiative from our county executive who cares very deeply about the level of customer service that our citizens deserve. And so in addition to having this new Pgc311 platform where citizens can go and get information and submit requests, the 311 on the Go program brings county government out to the community. An example of that, we are out this evening in Camp Springs, and we are able to answer citizens' questions as well as submit service requests right there on the spot. So it's a mobile service. We're mobile, we're responsive, and we are out where you live, where you work, and where you are entertained. So please look out for the 311 on the Go team. We will be in a neighborhood near you. And that's my contact information. If anyone needs additional information or they think of a question after this presentation, you can reach me, for those of you on the phone, at 301-952-4729, or send an email to the 311 on the Go email address. That's 311-ONTHEGO@co.pg.md.us. Again, 311 on the Go at co.pg.md.us. And sorry for the technical difficulties, but I do want to thank Ms. Davis for backing me up this evening. And also again, Senator Griffith, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Wow, thank you all so much for that presentation. And once again, I learned some things that I did not know. I pretend that we do Let's Talk for the constituents, but each and every presentation that we've had, I've taken away so much valuable information. And Ms. Davis, first of all, thank you, both Ms. Davis and Ms. Hawkins. Your team is in the community. And I just want to applaud you because almost everywhere I go, along with Delegates Barnes, Charles, and Tolles, we're out in the 25th District a lot at food giveaways and health fairs and National Night Out and all sorts of events. And I can tell you that your office is present everywhere we go. So we know that you're out in the community getting important information to our constituents. I'm going to turn it over to Najee in just a minute to see if there are questions, but I do have one, and that is the scope and scale of what you all manage in terms of connecting people with services and answers seems so broad. Is there a category of requests that should not come to your office that sometimes people like us might think is okay to send?
You know what, Senator Griffith, I really think it depends on what it is, right? Especially, well, one thing that should not come to our office, any emergency 911 related calls. We cannot answer that. We are not the police department. We're just going to, right? And if it's life threatening, please call 911. If it is related to another agency, and certainly we do not do their work. They are the experts, but what we do is connect because we have liaisons from our office to theirs. And so again, you may send something our way, but we'll just get you to the right person that will assist you.
Excellent. I was thinking like an entitlement referral that somebody might call you because they didn't get their SNAP benefits or something. Would that?
Most times we just refer them to the appropriate office, whether that's social services or family services.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks so much. Najee, do you have questions?
I do. One of the things you guys actually talked about was in regard to residents who work in DC, and asking if they can actually reach out to you. Can you share with us one more time and maybe put in the chat too, the numbers to dial? I know we had 311 and we had a 301 number.
Sure. Jennifer, if you could share that number again, please. And one thing that we're doing, Najee, with
Certainly.
our new system, we're using now a Salesforce platform. DC also uses a Salesforce platform. And so so does Alexandria. So we will be working together to see how our systems will be able to talk to each other. And so if you are in DC or Prince George's County and you call, then you're connected to the right service provider no matter what. And so that we're hoping that we'll be able to connect those shortly. But in the meantime, we do have a standard number that you may call no matter where you are. And Jennifer, can you please share that?
Certainly. The 10-digit number for the call center is area code 301-883-4748, and I'll drop that in the chat.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you. The next question we have here is, are residents able to, or I'm sorry, are you able to help residents who haven't received county trash or recycle bins?
Yes, we are. If you would, that's not a problem. That is a common question. And if you just send us an email using the email that was provided, or give us a call, we can assist you with that. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. How did COVID impact your operation?
How did COVID? Oh, wow. I think that it did a lot of things. One, it increased the number of calls, right? And prior to us launching, but we did feel that it was still imperative for us to push through to develop a system that was worthy for all Prince Georgians. What we did also was we established a COVID-19 hotline. I think it was one of the first in the state to do so. And so we were able to funnel all calls related to COVID to our hotline. We stood that up pretty quickly. And I will say to all of my operators, we never stopped working. And so when when business shut down on that Monday, all my operators were ready to go. And so we never left the phones, so to speak, and which was good because we routinely practice having to work remotely the day that it should happen, and it happened, right? And so all of my operators were ready to go in spite of COVID. We took the calls. We were able to help calm some residents, but I think the most important thing is we were able to share information that they needed quickly. And the most important, that it was accurate information that we were able to provide to our residents during those challenging times.
Wow. You guys moved quickly and did an amazing job. And we have a question here in the chat from Ms. Marjorie Lindsay Reed. Has Pgc311 been made accessible to all individuals, to include those residents with disabilities?
Yes, so we have a service provider that if a resident with a disability calls in, we're able to assist them. One thing that, and I think that we still have to do a better job to be more inclusive, but one thing that as Jennifer managed the 311 on the Go program, we ensure that we do reach those target audiences that sometimes I think that may sometimes be forgotten. And so we're able to target certain events and actions to those persons with disabilities, and allow them to be able to access the services as well. So yes.
All right, thank you for that. And actually, speaking of 311 and just follow-ups, is there an audit or follow-up process that follows up on anticipated completion dates given from resident submissions through the app?
Can you repeat that, please, one more time?
Is there an audit or follow-up process that follows up on the anticipated completion dates?
So
Okay.
accountability.
Okay, well, when you submit your service request, you will get that service level, our service level agreement or the completion date that the agency has dictated for that particular service. Now, if a service is missed, then we're able to follow up and try to get that particular thing rectified. And I think, and then also we have the emails that will go out to let you know that something has been completed. What is being implemented now in my office is our quality assurance unit, where we are contacting our residents to ask them about their our service level performance, how they like their service, and if they were pleased by it. So that is one way that we follow up with our residents to ensure that a quality service was performed, and if not, try to see what we missed and what we can do and where we can do better.
And Director Davis, just to add to that, so one of the roles of the 311 on the Go program will work with a citizen if a service has not been performed to their satisfaction. We'll go out and do a site visit, and then we'll work with our agency partners to bring resolution to their concerns. So it's almost like an escalation process within the Pgc311 system.
Very true. And just to add to that too, I think the question before from Senator Griffith was, you get a lot of calls in from residents about concerns, and where does that go? Where does it need to go? Is it where, do you just need to call someone to have the concern addressed? And I say, yes, you call our office, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put it in the system. And what happens is whether it's, I think it's 311 and even 211, Mr. Brill, once someone puts something in the system, that is data. And so now you can look at the data that will drive resources, it drives planning, it drives budget. And so everything that goes in the system, we're now able to say, oh, we received 1,000 of these calls versus 50 of these calls. And so it's very important that where many times everyone wants things done tomorrow, right? I do too. Many times though, it's a process to things, right? Some things do take time. And so I do ask residents, be patient, let the process work, but we need the data to go into the system, because that's the only way that we're going to improve services for you in the future.
That was helpful. We have two more questions. And then I'll turn it back over. First one is there a list of what communities the 311 on the Go team will be and when?
So we do ask citizens to follow us on social media, post events on our social media. And in the future, we'll make sure information is posted on our website as well. That's a work in progress right now.
And we have a program going on where in the county is OCR. And so if you do follow us, you'll find out where we are, where we're going, what community we stopped by tonight. I know we're at Camp Springs this evening, and I, thank you guys for indulging me while I coughed. I'm working through a cold, but I didn't want Jennifer on here by herself. She's pulling double duty. She's at Camp Springs and she's here with you, Senator Griffith. So, but I didn't want her on here by herself. So again, if you follow us, you'll find out where we are, where in the county is OCR. You see a red shirt, 9 times out of 10, it's OCR.
That's awesome. And the last one actually piggybacks off of that really quick. Other than social media, are there any other ways that the community can request a 311 on the Go team to visit their community?
I dropped my the email address, the 311 on the go email address in the chat. Just send an email and make that request, and we'll reach out and make it happen if we can.
Thank you so much. Senator Griffin.
Thank you both so much, and we will open it up again for all of our presenters. We have one more fantastic presentation, and then we will, with the time that's remaining, take any questions for the group. But thank you both, Ms. Hawkins, Ms. Davis. That was valuable information. I think this is going to be a highly viewed Let's Talk YouTube video, and certainly encourage people to follow you on social media as well. Folks, our third presenter is here and ready to go. He is Dan Rabbit, who is Policy Director at Behavioral Health Systems, Baltimore. BHSB is the local behavioral health authority for Baltimore City and is involved in several regional initiatives to strengthen behavioral health crisis services. As Policy Director, Dan works closely with the Maryland General Assembly and has visited our office quite frequently, I'm sure the delegates as well. He's been playing a leading role supporting the implementation of the new 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline in Maryland. He brings over a dozen years of health policy experience to the role, and he's thrilled to be helping with this important new mental health initiative. Here to tell us about Maryland's 988 Zoom Room. Welcome, Dan Rabbit.
Yeah, thanks, Senator. I appreciate the introduction. It's good to be with you all this evening. I have some slides that I can share. Moment. Can you all see what I'm sharing? Yep. Okay. Great. Let me do a quick. There we go. All right. So, like Senator Griffith said, at BHSB, we usually work in Baltimore City, and we oversee the mental health and substance use systems in Baltimore, making sure it's high quality, helping with funding, licensing, and that sort of thing. We have also been expanding recently to do more regional work, especially around mental health crisis. And we're also a nonprofit. We're not part of the city government in a formal way. And that allows us to play a bigger role doing advocacy and working with the legislature. And we really appreciate how big of a champion Senator Griffith is for mental health and substance use services. These are just some of the things that we do at BHSB: advocacy, managing public funds, public education, building partnerships. And in PG County, there's a similar entity out of the health department that does this sort of work. Like I said, crisis services is a thing that we've really seen as a very important part of mental health services throughout the state. And so we have done what we can do at BHSB to help move those services forward. When we talk about mental health crisis services, we're usually talking about three components, which is up here on the screen. There's someone to call if you're in distress, someone to respond, someone to go out in the community and meet you in person if that's what you need to be safe, and somewhere to go that isn't the emergency room or God forbid, like jail or something like that. So somewhere safe for you to go to recover from whatever was troubling you. And what we're talking about tonight is a big step forward on the someone to call piece of crisis services, which is 988. Folks may have heard about it, but maybe not. 988 is a new 3-digit number that you can call anywhere in the country, and that will link you to what is known as now as the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It used to be accessed by this 10-digit number on the screen, and it's been around for 20 plus years. But this new number provides a simpler way to get services and to get someone to talk to when at a time when most people, if someone is in crisis, if someone is very distressed, is going through emotional turmoil of one form or another, pretty hard to remember a 10-digit number. And so that's why it's pretty great that we've moved on to using this 3-digit number. And it's a nationwide number. This came from Congress and the Federal Communications Commission and Federal Substance Use and Mental Health Services Administration. So it's a pretty exciting thing. And it just happened this year. You know, it happened in July. Some of the benefits of 988 versus the 10-digit number. Again, it's easy to remember. This transition that occurred in July has also allowed and really required states across the country to stop and think about, like, what does their mental health crisis service system look like? What else does it need to be responsive and dependable? And so moving to 988 has not only changed the phone number, but it also led to most states, including Maryland, to kind of take stock and reinvest in mental health crisis services. So what is the Lifeline? It's 24/7 phone number. It's free, it's confidential. It's staffed by specialized crisis counselors, mental health professionals who have specialized training in suicide prevention, de-escalation, dealing with issues of trauma or grief. Jamie, who presented earlier, is also, like he said, his organization is a 988 call center, and so he represents one of these specialized mental health professionals. I think the important thing to know is that this really does work. So if there are folks on this call, on the internet, who feel like they could benefit from talking to someone, feels like they need to talk to someone to get over something that's troubling them, we encourage you to call 988 because it is shown to work. It reduces depression, it reduces anxiety, it helps people feel more hopeful and be more resilient. One question we get sometimes is, when should I call 988 and what's more appropriate for 911? I think the big difference is 911 is about dispatch. So if you want an ambulance or a fire truck or a police officer to come to where you are, then you call 911. If it's a life-threatening emergency, you call 911. But if you're having, thoughts of suicide, feeling lonely, feeling anxious, coping with grief, just need someone to talk to, then that's the service that 988 provides. And it should also be and reinforce that, like, if you're not sure what number is appropriate, just call one of them. In most parts of the state, the 988 call centers and the 911 answering points have strong relationships and can transfer you to one or the other, if it's more appropriate for you to work with that other call center. When you call 988, because it's a national system, and what will happen is you'll hear a message saying that you've reached 988. There'll be one question about, press 1 if you're a veteran, and press 2 if you prefer to speak Spanish. So those are two kind of separate networks of 988. But otherwise, you'll hear a brief hold, and then you get routed to your local call center. So if you're in PG County, and you call 988, you'll get routed to Jamie's shop at Community Crisis Services. If you're in Baltimore, you'll get routed to Baltimore Crisis Response. And so it's not like one big, even though it's a national routing system, it's not one big national call center. It's, I think, over 200 local call centers around the country. If the local call center is unable to answer within 30 seconds, there's also a backup call center, a backup network. And at which point you might not get to your local call center, but someone will still be able to talk to you. The way that 988 connects to those other parts of the crisis system, the someone to meet, someone to respond, and then somewhere to go parts of that 3-tiered system, is that most calls actually to 988 can be resolved on the phone. Most people get the relief they're seeking, are able to get something off their chest, to have someone to talk to, get the help they need just on the phone. Sometimes people do need an in-person intervention in order to be safe. But we try as often as possible to have it be a team of mental health professionals to go out and meet with someone if they're having a mental health concern, rather than police or an ambulance. Sometimes because the situation is life-threatening, 911, the call will be transferred to 911, and there may be an active rescue that's required. But we really try to have a mental health response to mental health concerns. And 988 is a step in that direction, away from law enforcement being the primary way that we respond to mental health concerns. In Maryland, we have 8 988 centers. This is a map of the state. You see here that Community Crisis Services, where Jamie's the call center director, is the center for PG County, as well as the southern counties in the state. You know, this network is a strong network, and so the state of Maryland is in a good position to have a responsive 988 system. One thing I do just want to mention is that 988 is a really exciting initiative. It's a big step forward. It's one of the most significant mental health initiatives that I can think of in recent years. It can save lives. It can help reduce our reliance on law enforcement, but it in and of itself is not a complete mental health crisis system. Maryland is doing a good job. We have mobile response teams, those mental health teams that can meet with people. We have mental health crisis stabilization beds. We have these call centers, but we still have some further work to do to be able to say that 988 is as dependable, as timely, as immediate as 911. But we're looking forward to working with Senator Griffith on things like that. You know, I think it's important to remember that 911 is 50 years old, and it took about 10 years to go from like the idea to it being fully functional and as responsive as we know it today. And so it will just take some time for 988 as well. And just to mention briefly, like Senator Griffith said, part of my role is also to work with the General Assembly. We have a campaign that we've developed around 988 to help raise awareness of 988 and educate lawmakers about why it's important to invest in it. So I invite you to check this website out as well if you're interested. fundmaryland988.org. Some of the other resources that could be helpful, again, the Community Crisis Services Incorporated in PG County, their website's up here. SAMHSA is the federal government's mental health agency. They have a website with a ton of 988 resources. 988 Lifeline is another website. That's the website operated by like the company that routes the calls. And then the state of Maryland has its own 988 website as well. And so invite you to check those out if you're interested in more information. And again, if you or a loved one is ever feels like they would benefit from talking to someone and talking to a counselor, please don't hesitate to call 988. So that's my presentation. Happy to pass it back on over to Senator Griffith and her team.
Thank you so much. Again, I am just in awe with this valuable information that we've received this evening from each of our presenters. Mr. Rabbit, you've been by my office several times over the years, and I did not have a sense really of the need, the scope of the issue in Maryland. Can you just share a little bit about that and kind of like how we got to this point nationally of, you know, putting a national 3-digit number in place to address this like really important issue? Took us a while to get here, right?
It did. You know, I'm a social worker as well. I have an MSW as you do.
Shout out social work.
Yeah. And you know, when I went to grad school, we didn't talk a lot about mental health crisis or suicide. Like that's not as common of an issue. And I think that's changing maybe, but you know, certainly 20, 30 years ago, it was not as high profile of a concern, even though it was certainly a concern then. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline was created in the early aughts through a federal initiative, and it has had that 1-800 number that I mentioned, 1-800-273-TALK, for a number of years. And so that network's been out there for a while, and there's been really great organizations in Maryland who are a part of that network. I think CCSI or Jamie Works has been a part of that network maybe from the beginning. But those call centers have had to fundraise. They've had to find their own funding. They've relied on volunteers in some cases. Local government sometimes has assisted, but it's been a patchwork. With Congress deciding that we should have a 3-digit mental health crisis number that kind of parallels 911, when they made that decision, they passed a law in 2020 to kind of start this process. They also started thinking that, like, well, the federal government really ought to spend more, like, invest in this and play a stronger role in supporting it. And then states have also made that realization and decision as well. So it's taken a while, but I think the Biden administration said, like, they increased funding for 988 like 200-fold or something. And that's not to say that they're spending that much money, but they spent very, very little before. But they are starting to invest. In the state of Maryland, with your help, appropriated money for 988 this past General Assembly as well. So it's taken a little while, but we're excited that I think we're kind of crossing a threshold, and where people are recognizing how important it is to have a 24/7 free, confidential mental health support line, crisis line.
Thank you so much. Thank you for that response and for your commitment to this issue. Mr. Bailey, turning it over to you to see if you have any questions for Mr. Rabbit.
We have a couple. I want to first address the question in the chat from Miss Shamika Young. Is the question about a space for small business to provide support for future events for 988, or was that for 311, or both? If you're all right, so first question. Is there space for small businesses to provide support for future events? If so, whom do we need to contact?
I mean, for 988, it just started in July. I think the state and local governments are considering promotional activities, like formal promotional activities, but I'm not sure what's happening in PG County myself. And you know, we have had some outreach events in Baltimore, and I think the state is planning some as well, but I'm not really sure of anything for 988 at this point. But we'd love to stay in touch and invite you to stay in touch with the senator's office and with the PG County health department as well.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, working with our office and our local behavioral health authority as well. And obviously we'll be working with Mr. Brill to make sure we get the word out here in Prince George's. So thank you for that, Ms. Young. We'll be in touch.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. That is helpful. The next question we have here is, does 988 refer people across the state to in-person services or telehealth?
Yes. And Jamie, please hop in. But the primary thing that 988 does is provide counseling, provide someone to talk to, but they also do provide resources and referrals. And so there's definitely overlap between 211 and 988. But we kind of want all these numbers to be a no wrong door sort of a thing. So wherever you call, whatever you need, the idea is that all of these systems work together and can get you where you need to go. Jamie, do you want to say anything about like referrals and telehealth?
Definitely. So, thank you so much, Dan. Now, yeah, indeed, the fact that all of our workers are trained also on 211, really beautiful marriage between like, you know, the skills used to like to support someone who's in emotional distress, coupled with, okay, cool. So we've had some time to talk about what's going on that has you in this crisis. Can we get you connected with some services that might be able to help you on an ongoing basis? Of course, our hotline's here. The hotline's always here. 988 is always going to be here. And also, in addition to that, are there further counseling resources that we can get you connected with? And those can take a variety of forms. Like, so folks can see, you know, can we find someone who you can talk to in person or over Zoom? So that we have a couple different ways that we can refer people to services. And something else that we just launched, that we're just starting to launch within Prince George's County, is diverting 911 calls that contain mostly emotional health care components and not really like a life-threatening emergency component. And we're diverting those calls back towards 988. So Dan, I admit I had to screenshot that slide because the way that was put was just so beautiful. Call one of us. Whatever's happening, call 988, call 911. If you're not sure what to do, just dial one of them. We'll get you to where you need to go. And indeed, that is more true than ever, especially in Prince George's County.
Excellent.
Thank you so much. We have 2 more questions here. First is, can someone call for a family member?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, it depends on the circumstance. Jamie, do you want to share a little bit about like kind of sort of how you approach a loved one calling on behalf of someone else?
Absolutely. Yes. So this comprises a significant amount of our 988 call volume, particularly in Spanish. So the first thing that we want to ascertain when someone reaches out on behalf of a loved one is, are they in life-threatening danger right now? Do we need to get emergency services involved? And if not, you know, we're talking with this person through the situation that, you know, that they're concerned about, and we're equipping them with some knowledge on how to be supportive to their loved one. Some things that you can say to be supportive, some things that you might want to avoid saying. We more focus on what do we say? What can we say to be supportive? So we have significant training around walking someone through that process. So when I train it, I say it mirrors training the same skills that we use to support our callers directly. So we're essentially teaching we're teaching some of that in real time to a caller in order to be able to support their loved one. And we're always encouraging your loved one, when they are ready and want to talk, they're welcome to call us anytime. We're available 24/7 and would love to talk with them. But understand if they're not at that point yet where they're ready to do so. Whenever they are, we're not going anywhere. We will be here.
Okay. So just so I have that summarized, you guys will provide support techniques, strategies, ask about the current status of the family member being called for, and then you're going to encourage the family member to encourage the person who needs the support and resources to reach out when they're ready. Okay. Thank you. And the last question I have here is, are translators available for languages other than Spanish?
Yeah, there's a language line available at all Lifeline call centers, where you patch through an interpreter.
Does it happen automatically?
I know it's available. How does someone request it, Jamie?
So there's some difficulty that can come in. We have to have this person clarify for us what language they need an interpreter for. By and large, that's not an issue. People will be able to tell us in English that here's the name of my language, that like in English, so that you can find it. When we call the language line, we get a prompt that says, please say the language that you need an interpreter for if it's not Spanish. And we say it, and then they get an interpreter on the line. So on occasion, we have someone who has difficulty with conveying to us what language they speak. We do have several multilingual members of our team who have been really helpful in circumstances like this. It's not one that comes up very often. But by and large, as long as someone's able to say to us that here's the language I need the interpreter for, the language line is very efficient. And so readily available, and has a wide array of different languages available.
Thank you so much. Is there a separate number for it, or do they call you?
They would call us, and then we essentially conference the language line into the phone call. So like we have an access code for the language line in order to utilize that service. And so we put in that access code and then like bring the interpreter on the line with us and then relay messages back and forth via the interpreter.
Got it. Thank you. Senator
All
Griffith.
right. Thanks so much. Look, this has been fantastic. We still have just a few minutes left. If those who are here have a question that has not yet been addressed, we are so delighted to have Mr. Brill, Ms. Hawkins, Director Davis, Mr. Rabbit, just phenomenal presentations, jam-packed with content. But certainly if there is a burning question that got missed from our team or any of our guests, I see Belinda Queen has joined us, and it's always good to see our former school board member. If there are any questions from anyone, you have just a few minutes left. Yeah.
I did have a question. Are any of these agencies hiring? Because it sounds like a lot of work. I don't know if a lot of people are doing it. Are you looking for social workers or healthcare professionals or crisis intervention people? Because a lot of people are looking for work.
We
Not
just
her,
closed
just
down
for the
the
record, not her. I just want to say that.
We just stopped hiring like today. We put hiring on pause because we now have a team of about 300 people.
Wow.
And it's such a blessing. Indeed, the funding increases that we have received because of SAMHSA's advocacy, because of Vibrant Emotional Health's advocacy. Vibrant Emotional Health they administer the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So it has been beautiful. We've been able to round out our team. You'll note I'm still drinking coffee at 7:30 at night because that's a lot of people to answer emails from. So we are not hiring at the moment, but of course, our call volume is going to continue to rise. We are actually going to be answering calls for, there is a press 3 option when you dial 988 now to speak with someone specifically about LGBTQ+ youth issues. So we will be assisting with some of that volume. And as a result, it is likely that inside the next couple of weeks, we'll probably reopen our applications. So I'm just going to drop Dan and his presentation. And so if folks are interested and want to do work like ours, our specialists find it immensely fulfilling. It's not easy, but it's incredibly fulfilling. Callers are grateful for what we do, grateful for the support that we offer. So if you go to communitycrisis.org and click careers in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see our open applications. We don't have any open at the moment, apart from some of our other non-hotline programs, but our world changes rapidly. So we'll probably see openings again inside the next couple of weeks or months.
Excellent. I see that we have, I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't mean to interrupt, but SAMHSA also has a job board. So that's great that CCSI is filled up. But if the Montgomery County call center or the Alexandria call center, I know people commute and things, but if you go to samhsa.gov/988, there's a a hiring link that shows openings for other 988 call centers as well.
If you
Thanks
go
so
to
much.
the Prince George's County government job board as well, you'll see opportunities for the Office of Community Relations as well as other agencies.
Excellent, excellent. We do have one hand raised, and then I want to give each of our presenters, 1 minute to kind of wrap up and kind of summarize anything that you wanted to include. So Miss Lindsay Reed, Marja Lindsay Reed.
Yes, good evening. Although I have the background of being a clinical social worker and a commissioner for individuals with disabilities, I'm speaking for myself. I thought I had typed it in the chat, but I wanted to know how this agency relates to whoever, and I'll have to look it up. I believe we have a new crisis response contract from the affiliated Sante group to someone else. So I have to look that up. But how do you relate to current crisis response? I've used it in professional and personal quite a bit in Prince George's County. And if I didn't have the skill set that I have,
Oops. I think her signal cut her off. If you want to go ahead, I think that was for Mr. Brill, or if you want to go ahead and put the answer in the chat or put it on the recording.
what did you hear?
I think we heard most of your questions. So Mr. Brill, you got enough to respond?
Absolutely. So I think you're talking about like how do we connect with like mobile crisis services in the area? So you will ascertain someone's need for it, and if they have a need for it, and like they're in really significant distress, but not at the point of being in life-threatening danger, that is appropriate for mobile crisis intervention. So now there is another organization that indeed now runs the mobile crisis team in Prince George's County, apart from affiliated Sante. And so we actually contact the Department of Behavioral Health at this point for someone needing mobile crisis in Prince George's County, relay information about the case to them, and then they will dispatch the mobile crisis team from there. So there are a couple different teams available now, I think, through the organization that now runs it.
And Miss Lindsay Reed, in case that didn't nail your answer, I think all of our presenters have their contact information in the chat room. So if we didn't hear, because we lost maybe a little bit in the bad signal time, then we'll be happy to follow up with you offline. We are at 7:32, so we're going to give each of our presenters in the order that you presented. We'll go 211-311-988. You have 1 minute to give any kind of closing remarks or parting information that you'd like our listeners and subsequent viewers to know about your services or you.
First of all, Senator Griffith, thank you so much for having me. This has been a real joy to be a part of. So I think I've told you all everything that I know. So I just want to say thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much. And Ms. Davis, I think Ms. Hawkins had to take care of her outreach responsibilities. So you want to wrap up for 311?
Yes, and thank you again for allowing us to share this evening the new happenings in Pgc311. We encourage all Prince Georgians to utilize that service for non-emergency government services. And anytime that the Office of Community Relations can be of assistance, please do not hesitate to call us, because we are connecting people and connecting resources. Thanks again.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And wrapping us up, Mr. Rabbit from 988.
Thank you again, Senator, and your whole team. Really appreciate the opportunity to present today. And I hope the word can get out. 988 in particular is a new number, so we want people to be aware that it exists. Mental health concerns, feeling down, feeling anxious, feeling overwhelmed. Unfortunately, that is more common for the residents of our communities than ever. And so we just encourage you to call 988 if you need someone to talk to, or if a loved one or a friend or neighbor is having a hard time. The resource is effective and accessible and free 24/7. So take advantage of it and let people that you care about know about it.
Well, thank you all so very much. This has been incredible. A special shout out to Letitia Beal, who helped coordinate this Let's Talk and did a fantastic job. This has been incredible information. This is our October 2022 Let's Talk, but